Welcome to Crash Concepts, where the economy, energy, and the environment are explored. Up next, fresh ideas and insights into the factors that are driving the world and shaping your future. Presenting information you can't afford to live without, here's Chris Martenson.
Hello, it's November 16th, 2010. This is Chris Martenson of chrismartenson.com. And today we're going to be speaking with Ted Butler, silver analyst and champion, about the silver markets. Welcome, Ted.
Hey, Chris. Good to be here.
Well, it's a real pleasure to have you here. As we were just talking about before this started, I've been following you for years, and I just have been a real fan of your work, and I love the analytical approach you bring to it and the calm determination that you've shown over the years in analyzing the silver market. So this is a real pleasure for me.
Those are real kind words. I much appreciate it.
Well, so you've become one of the preeminent commentators on the silver market over the years. So I'm wondering, can you give our listeners a quick history of your background, the expertise you've developed, and how you came to be interested in silver?
Well, I'm going to have to condense perhaps 25 or more years, 30 years into a very short time frame, so forgive me if it's, I'll try and keep it simple. I started out as a commodity broker trainee at Merrill Lynch, I'd guess around 1971 or 2. Spent about 5 years at Merrill, then went on to Drexel Burnham Lambert in the Miami office for about 10 years or so. And along the way, I became in the mid-'80s attracted towards silver at the urging of a client who's still a very good friend, Izzy Friedman, who issued me the challenge back in the mid-'80s to basically answer a puzzle he had. He had been trading the silver market very profitably for years and had approached me knowing that I did tend to dig into things, and he issued me a challenge that, look, I'm invested in silver. The statistics show that we're producing less than we're consuming, and in spite of this deficit consumption pattern, the price just doesn't go up, and it was about $4 or $5 in that range, and just stuck on a flat line for many years. And I kind of thought, well, I'll be able to look at this and give him a quick answer and be done with it and on to the next thing. But I got stuck. I couldn't come up with an answer as to why the price of silver wasn't moving according to the law of supply and demand. It's what we send our kids to school, hopefully to learn, is, supply, demand, and price. And the price basically serves as a fulcrum to balancing supply and demand, yet that wasn't happening in silver, and I didn't have the answer, and I kept looking, and fortunately, because of my background in futures for so many years at that time, one day it just dawned on me. It was a eureka moment, and it dawned on me that the open interest, the amount of contracts committed on the COMEX, the main silver exchange in the world, basically was out of line when you converted it to real-world supplies and did the same exercise for every other commodity that was traded. You came up with this tremendous aberration in silver, and which led me further to discover that the reason the price was not responding to supply and demand was because the open interest, the long and short paper position, was so much greater than it should have been and greater than production and world supplies at that time, that it was the short position basically was serving as a oversupply factor and depressing the price. When I uncovered this information, I did the upstanding thing, I thought at the time, by going to the commodity regulators, both the CFTC and the exchange itself, and presented the evidence, and they basically told me to go away. It was no problem. But I persisted, and over the years, much later, thanks to the introduction of the Internet and the mailings that Investment Rarities started to do back in around the year 2000, I was able to get the word out, and that there was a manipulation in the silver market due to the very big short position on the COMEX. And as time has gone on, more and more people have come to accept that, and it's resulted in publicity, recent lawsuits, and I think there's going to be a resolution coming from the commodity regulator before long. So how's that for a 25-year condensing?
So if I understand you right, you first uncovered this in the mid-'80s when you were looking into this puzzling supply-demand price mismatch for ISI. It's been going on that long?
Yes. I tell you, if I had to pick a date, my favorite date going back, and without getting really involved as to why I picked that date, I'd pick it as February of 1983 that I can date this manipulation in silver back to.
Well, what happened on that date? Do you know?
Well, what happened is that's when the first big increase, demonstrable increase in open interest took place, and if you can date it back to then, where the open interest in silver, which had been around the 25,000 contract mark up until that date, exploded up to double that and then triple that. And you can kind of trace back the action and suppression of the price to that increase in the open interest starting around that date, early 1983.
Wow, that's amazing. So I want to get into that in more detail in just a second. We've got some listeners I know who are not going to be all that familiar with silver markets, and so I would like to tap your expertise to set the stage for them a little bit. So for those listeners we've got who are new to the precious metals markets and investing, could you explain, why is it that silver is valuable, and why do you think it might become more valuable over time? Is there anything that we use it for that we can't substitute? We can't do without it. Any critical processes or technologies for which no great substitutes exist?
Yeah, in a simple word, yeah. Silver is both. It's a hybrid metal, and people kind of know this. It's both a precious metal that's been sought by man since the dawn of civilization, along with gold. And over the last 100 or so years, we've discovered some magnificent applications and properties, chemical properties that silver contains. For instance, silver is the best conductor of electricity in the world. Silver is the best transfer agent for heat. Silver is the best reflector of light. Silver is one of the few substances that you can use in photography on a chemical basis. The other one is platinum, but since platinum is almost 100 times the price of silver, they're certainly not going to substitute silver with platinum in that process. Silver is a biocide that can kill viruses. So we use it from everything from lasers to every form of electronics has some silver in it. We use it for medical properties. We're even using it in socks and underwear now, because if you use some silver threads in materials close to the body that sweat, it kills the bacteria that causes bodily odor. So it's an indispensable, it's a miracle metal. The fact that it's been depressed, or I allege it's been depressed in price for so many years, has actually increased its consumption for all these varied products. And there's more applications for industrial applications for silver than for any other metal combined. It's the only commodity, I think, that has more industrial applications and uses than silver is crude oil itself. So because of this widespread industrial applications that we can use silver for, we have just consumed the heck out of it, and that consumption has basically was the explanation, and because of we were using more than we were producing, we had to draw down from existing world inventories and supplies, which had accumulated over hundreds and hundreds of years. Because of this consumption, and this is a shocker to most people, yet if you do your homework, you can basically verify whether it's true or not. because we've had so much consumption for all these properties of silver over the last 50 or 100 years, that we've actually consumed silver inventories down to the point where there's actually less silver in bullion form in the world than there is gold. In other words, silver is more rare than gold in an inventory bullion equivalent basis, and that's absolutely crazy because the price of silver is, but 2% of what the price of gold is. And anytime you have an item that's more rare than another item, you would think that the more rare item would be more valuable.
Well, you would think that, particularly one that's so magical like silver, which it really is in its uses. And when you say consumed, in some cases we can recover the silver after we've used it. There's a certain percent of recovery after photographic processes, right? We can recover.
Certainly. There is discounting for the recycling of silver, but there's many forms. When I say consumed, I'm talking about the silver that is basically non-recyclable, silver that's put into form that you can't get at, like the material behind the touch pads in a telephone or something like that makes a contact. It's very hard and expensive to go out and recover silver from all the applications and products it's used in, simply because we use so little of it in any one application that it's very cost inefficient to go out and recover something where such a small amount is in the application. So I'm just talking about, we do have a big component of recycling that's part of the supply-demand equation. However, there's a much bigger component where we do use silver, where technically it may not disappear and burn up into the atmosphere like occurs with